Hi there, Ohana at St. Mark. It's Pastor Les. Sitting in my office Saturday afternoon and wanted to bring some thoughts to you since we are unable to gather together for worship tomorrow and for sure next Sunday as well. We don't know after that yet, but COVID-19 is certainly having its effect on us and our families. But even though we are encouraged to stay clear of each other and leave some distance of 6 feet or more between us and others, I'm reminded that we have a God who is not going to distance himself from us. And in spite of COVID-19, which is just another example of how these kinds of things have happened historically, that through all of that we know and we believe, we understand that we have a loving God who cares for us, and he is clearly in charge of all this, and how he's going to use it for the benefit of his kingdom is yet to be seen, but he always has a plan, and we get to watch it unfold. So, not wanting to give coronavirus more press than it already has, I wanted to just share a few thoughts today on our lesson that we would have done tomorrow. If we were gathered in church, we would have had all 3 lessons, but the one I wanted to share some ideas and thoughts with you on was the one from John chapter 9, the whole chapter. If you look it up and check it out, you'll find it's the story of Jesus healing the blind man, putting mud on his eyes and sending him to the pool of Siloam to get his eyesight back, or to get it for the very first time, and how he goes before the Jews and all that transpires in that. So I just want to share some ideas with you about that, and a little bit of an example of a friend of mine that really kind of fits into this story. So of course it's the man is born blind, and the whole town knows he's blind. He's been that way since he was born, and he encounters Jesus, and Jesus makes mud, puts it on his eyes, tells him to go to the pool of Siloam and wash, and of course when he does, he comes back out seeing. And I can't even imagine what that would be like if I were him and I opened my eyes, and for the very first time I would see images, and I would see what people look like and what trees look like, and I would see what color is, and the vividness of all of that just had to have been overwhelming for him. Well, as we think about waters, I'm also reminded of baptism, how you and I were baptized. Some of you were baptized as infants, and so you've not known anything but being a Christian your whole life, probably raised in the church, and so you understand what that's all about. But others of you may have been baptized when you were an older child, or maybe you're a teenager or a young adult, or even a senior citizen, and how you would probably remember what life was like for you before you were baptized. Well, the change in the blind man, as we saw in the gospel today, was clearly very dramatic. In fact, we're told that some of the neighbors didn't even recognize him. They weren't even sure that he was the same person. Maybe he was a different person. Well, the same probably could be said of us too. If people knew us before we were baptized, if we were one of those baptized later on, might know us as being a little different than we had been before. I'd like to share with you just a portion of today's epistle lesson, Paul's letter to the Ephesians chapter 5, where he says, "For at one time you were darkness, but now you are light in the Lord. Walk as children of light, for the fruit of light is found in all that is good and right and true." Notice that it doesn't say that you walk in the light. It says, or walk in the darkness, that you were darkness and that you are now light. So the blind man goes before the Jews and he said, "It's me, it's really me. I am who I say I am. Yes, I am the blind man that all of my neighbors know." Well, what was more important to him, even more than identifying himself as this formerly blind man, is to exclaim and share who Jesus is. And when they ask him, "Who is he?" his answer is, "He's a prophet." Well, our baptism tells us to give due where it belongs. What changes come over us in our baptism? Well, I guess the question for me is, well, who was I before I was baptized and who am I now? Well, I believe that I am who I am today because of Jesus. I have a relationship with him now that I did not have before. And for me, it makes all the difference in the world. And even for every person who has been baptized, it makes all the difference in the world. I knew a young man a number of years ago who came to an adult confirmation class that I was teaching, and he had many questions, and we would talk after class out in the parking lot at our cars for up to 2 hours sometimes. And I remember my feet would be numb when I would finally get home from that session. Well, at the end of the course, he decided to be confirmed, and he was. And then we offered the course a second time that year, and what do you know, but Charlie shows up again. And he goes through the whole class again, and we spend our hour to 2 hours after class in the parking lot with frozen feet, talking, asking more and more questions. Well, back to the blind man though. Now he is not a blind man, but he's a seeing man. But he also met with resistance from the Jews. And that's how it is, isn't it? Sometimes with someone who is baptized or someone who comes to faith, baptism isn't just a single act that's done in a minute. It's a profound act of God upon the individual, creating faith where probably or certainly wasn't any at some point. The baptized person then is this new creation. And so it happens that a family may create resistance to that person. They don't understand what he's about or what's happened to him or how he's changed. And that happened to my friend Charlie too. You see, he no longer participated in the activities with his coworkers that he once had done because he knew that he was different, he was changed. But back to the man born blind, Jesus watches over him as he watches over all of those who are baptized. Their testimony is no guarantee that they'll be acceptable by other people, but it certainly is a sense of worship of God. So we who are baptized are in a world right now, along with those who are not baptized, that's turned upside down by COVID-19. Right now, we're not the gathered church. We're more like the scattered church. We are baptized, whom God is using in the mission field right where we are. And you and I will have plenty of opportunity to talk with our friends, our families, our neighbors, co-workers about COVID-19, but in particular what that means for us and what an opportunity that is that we get to have to share with others our faith and our trust, our hope that's in Jesus Christ. Never was there such a time as this, at least not in my lifetime. So let's not let it get by us without being light in the midst of darkness, even as we practice social distancing. So may the God of peace be with you today and every day. Continue to give you a hope and a trust in Him as we go through this time in our lives. We will all rise above it as we have in the past and probably will again in the future. But just remember, you do not walk alone. You're not alone where you are. our loving God is there with each one of us. And so, God's peace to you as you go through this week. I look forward to seeing you again next week as we gather a little bit through the enhancement of online video. God bless you. Have a good day. Bye-bye.